Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Start Small, Think Big podcast. My name is Brad Groux, founder and CEO of Digital Meld.
Hi, I'm Robert Groux, CTO of Digital Meld.
And I'm Carrie Hundley, Chief Growth Officer here at Digital Meld.
And I'm Arnold Castro, the Assistant Dean of AI for Mesa Business School at Texas A&M University.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say that we have our first ever guest on the podcast. This is now our fourth episode, and we're happy and blessed to have Arnold Castro join us. He's recently joined Texas A&M as the Assistant Dean of AI for the Mesa School of Business, and he's transitioning the way that kids and the institution's learning and growing with AI, which I think has a huge role of obviously in the business world as those students graduate and they go off and get jobs in the business world. How they did stuff at school is going to translate to how they work in the business. And so I think we can have a lot of great insights about what the education space is trying to do to keep up with all of the rapid changes going on across the AI space. And that will obviously translate to the business space as well. Again, thanks for joining us, Arnold. If you just want to take a few minutes to introduce yourself, your background, and give us a little bit more context.
Sure. As mentioned, I'm part of Mesa Business School. I'm the Assistant Dean of AI and here to launch quite a bit of initiatives that we have in the AI space and tech space. I come from a technologist background. I've done a little bit of everything throughout my career. You and I, Brad, have been, worked together at NASA, for example, and I've also served in the military. Recently, in the last, 7 years, we've been working heavily in the manufacturing space, just helping companies globally just how to properly fix their data problems to be able to adopt AI and have AI infused apps and such to help them with different tasks across various departments and different organizations. So it's been a fun time doing those kind of things. Texas A&M called me and this opportunity came up. It was too good to say no to it simply because I've seen a lot of the problems, right, that we're experiencing in the business world. And with AI being such a, big gorilla in the room, everybody is either excited about it or scared. I wanted to kind of try to tackle that from an academic perspective and help students prepare for that big shift that's already happening across all industries as people are adopting AI to increase efficiencies across really everywhere. But it has to be applied properly, right? So again, I'm here to kind of help drive some of the initiatives, which I'll talk about shortly, and drive the change in many aspects, anything from the culture side to how you actually work, how you actually study in the student's case, right? How you do homework, etc., by leveraging AI to help you with those things.
Awesome. Yeah, and we tried to start this podcast about 6 months ago. And just because we were a startup, our business was working, we were working 60, 80 hours a week, didn't really have time. So it's kind of serendipitous that we kind of delayed it. And then let Arnold end up being the first guest that we've ever had because Arnold and I, as he mentioned kind of earlier, we go back 30 plus years. We've known each other since junior high of all things. And then we went to high school together. We used to cruise AOL together, AOL chat rooms back in the day. That's our first, I guess, foray into the online world was the days of AOL and dial-up and all those crazy things. And then I think we got our first jobs, our tech jobs, while we were college students unboxing PCs for Y2K. That's how far back we go. And then we lucked into a great job at NASA. If you look at his background, it's very similar to my background with all of our NASA goodies in the background. Like we're both space geeks, and I think we'd probably agree that's to this day, it's probably still our favorite job, even though we didn't make all that much money, but we had kind of the lay of the land and got to do a lot of great things. And just a lot's changed for Arnold in the last couple of months. And he's been at the forefront of AI for 7+ years for global enterprise companies and helping them get their data where it needs to be. We've talked about that in the previous episodes, that data is the cornerstone of everything you do. So hopefully we can get some more insights into that. I think from that perspective, we like to talk a little bit about the news to start out, and we'll keep that kind of light because we do have a guest for the first time. But just one of the things we'll bring up this week, and again, it'll be in the show notes and we'll be able to provide those things, is the new model context protocol for MCP. So if you don't know what that is, just look that up. And just know from an agentic AI perspective, we're going to be doing a lot of really cool things from that perspective. And I think we'll probably leave the news from that. Arnold, you've mentioned that you've recently come on as Assistant Dean of AI. Can you just give us a couple of minutes about what you've been up to since you started and what your goal is within the next 6 months to a year? Because as this AI scape is rapidly changing in the business world, we imagine it's just moving just as quickly in the education world.
I am leading quite a bit of initiatives here at Mesa Business School. The top two that are coming up right now is we have two nationwide AI competitions that I'm in charge of. The first one is an undergrad competition. It's a business plan competition where students will submit their AI business plan, right? In other words, they have this amazing AI idea, company, whatever it is they have, and they have to produce a business plan on how you're going to monetize it. What is it? What industry is it involved in? What's the ethics behind it, et cetera, et cetera. And you submit it. You have to have an MVP as well. So the MVP, you don't have to show it to us right now. You will have to provide some proof if you are selected or pre-selected to be one of the top 24 teams, because April 30th is the deadline to enter. Sometime in late May, early June, we'll be contacting those teams to check out those MVPs for those that we want to attempt to move forward. But those top 24 teams will then be selected to pitch to us via Zoom or Teams or some remote format. There'll be a judging panel at that point that they'll pitch to. And out of the 24, we will select 12 that will come on campus on September 19th and 20th. And they'll be able to pitch in person. We're going to give them a tour of the campus, hopefully have some big name speakers come speak, talking about the different parts of AI in the business world and what different companies are doing. And then, they'll be competing. Again, you're going to go out there as if you're a student. Your teams are 1 to 4 people, and you're going to talk about what it is that your idea is, what it is that you're trying to pretty much sell us on. Top prize is $100,000 that they'll get. Second prize is $50,000, and it keeps going down the line. Every one of those 12 teams will get some money, with, of course, the highest being 100K, and the 12th place will get 2,500 for a total of 217.5K. Now, all of this is, possible thanks to the Deloitte Foundation, that they were able to donate these funds to us. And that we're hoping to have some pretty amazing entries, which we already do. I've already seen some of them, and I'm so excited to see a lot more and hopefully pick, some amazing potential candidates that could take off in the future, right? Because this seed money is going to help them quite a bit. Then we have the dissertation side. This is PhD candidates submitting their dissertations focused in AI, and we're going to be selecting the top 6 to come on campus and network with our faculty and business leaders to show us, talk about what their dissertation, their research is all about. And each of those 6 will receive $10,000. Again, they're getting the opportunity to mingle with everybody and just talk to everybody across the campus and such, to kind of show us what they got, right? Because you're talking about potential funding that could come to them in the future, or potential work, etc., based on the research that they're working on. So that's very exciting from those 2 fronts, and we're hoping that this is the first of many for the following years, because this is the first, as far as we know, the first AI competition, from a business plan perspective, that's being done on a national level by a public university, as well as the first dissertation, right? I am also apparently the first dean of AI in the nation, which is kind of crazy to think about that. But this is also exciting, right? It shows where Mesa is trying to head to and be at the forefront of the AI world. We're not scared of AI. We're embracing it and trying to figure out how to position Mesa to be not only a leader, but show the rest of the academic world of, hey, this is how you use AI for higher ed. So yeah, exciting times. A few other things that we're working on that I should mention is this fall coming up, we're going to be launching the minor in AI and business. That's going to be an exciting new minor offered to our students, undergrads, and that's going to be with a focus on agentic AI. With, we're going to have a partnership with OpenAI, Google, and others to be able to provide the tools that these folks are going to use. Now, the one big partnership that we've created is Perplexity. We're so excited about that because Perplexity is going to be utilized across campus for everything for us. And by everything, I mean literally everything, right? We plan to give it to every student, every faculty and staff member out there, give them full access to it. This is like an enterprise level, it's secure, and let them figure out how they want to use it within their world, right? Let it be to help them with research, help them with, party planning, whatever it is that they wish to use it for, they'll be able to use it. The Agentic AI minor will help those students that take that minor create their own agents, right? And be able to create, if you think about it, an R2D2 unit, right? I'm a big Star Wars fan. I love saying R2D2, and these are going to be like your little helper, your Jarvis in a way, right? That's going to be there for you, help you study, help you do your homework, help you pretty much be your go-to tool for anything and everything in school. The idea behind it is the more you get addicted to it, the more you learn how to properly use tools like these and configure them to kind of expand your capacity and increase your efficiency, you can take it to the real world, right? We want you to grab that tool, in this case, whatever your poison is, let it be, Google, Gemini, Vertex, or OpenAI, Perplexity, etc., and take it out there to the business world and let you do magic with it. By magic, I mean somebody with AI can do, up to 10 times the amount of work that somebody without AI can do, right? So as you can imagine, these folks graduating from Texas A&M are going to be hitting the ground floor running. I mean, these folks are going to be transforming companies if they're given the chance. So that's where the business world is headed right now, and people need to realize that they need to be more open to adopting AI, figuring out how does it fit in their company, but also training their folks, because AI is not just OpenAI or chatbots or anything like that. There's a lot more to AI than just that. That's just the pretty tool right now, the pretty aspect of AI that we're hearing about, the Gen AI, Agentic AI, et cetera. But AI is a lot more than that. And of course, the foundation for AI is good data. And I think, honestly, I mean, if I'm being honest, Brad, earlier you mentioned that, one of our very first jobs was working with Y2K, right? And if you think about it from those days, right now, it's similar to those days because we made crazy money just prepping companies for Y2K, right? And in some cases, they didn't need to prep. In other cases, they really needed to prep because it could have crashed some things. But right now, that easy money that we made can easily be made with data engineering. And folks that are smart about it, that are getting ahead of the curve and kind of getting those skills for data engineering, can be making some really good money because there's a shortage of data engineers out there. And those folks that, again, are jumping in that bandwagon and saying, okay, let me see what this can do, are going to be making, again, some serious money over the next 5+ years as they enhance their AI skills as well, because companies need to be prepping their data for ingestion, because this wave, again, it's here already, and you got to figure out how to ride it. And the best way to ride it is with good data. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. So you got to start, working on your data, make sure it's clean, make sure it's ready for ingestion, and the value you're going to get out of it is going to be crazy, because there's so much analytics you can do, so many business decisions you can make that are going to be made much better if you have the right data in front of you versus just winging it and hoping for the best, right? So yeah, those are some of the things that we're working on really for the next year. One last thing that I gotta mention is that minor in AI is going to turn into a certification for all of you guys, for example, right? People that haven't already graduated. This is working professionals or even people going to grad school, PhD, whatever. They can take this and it's going to be fully remote. And it's going to allow them to learn how to do these things that I'm talking about, how to create your agents, how to use AI in the business world. And that's going to be allowed open to everybody. And we're excited about that because that's going to be, again, something that we believe is much needed right now in the business world, and that can potentially transform a company if it's applied correctly. So, yeah.
You are a busy man. That's a lot of exciting goals. And I know you're already making waves, and the impact you're going to have is going to be astronomical. So again, we really appreciate you making the time to join us today, because as our listeners have heard, you have a lot of amazing things going on. There's several things that I'd love to double click on and unpack. First, I'd love to invite you back probably many times, hopefully over the course of this podcast, but definitely to debrief on these competitions. I think it would be really interesting for folks to hear, what the pitches were, who won, and the implication of that as far as the curriculum changes and all the tools and things that you're providing, and how that's impacting students and the output, and tying that together with how that will impact businesses who are looking to hire. So we're having conversations with businesses all the time and trying to help them unpack not only the obvious wins of AI or automation, but also the less obvious, more intangible things. And one of the things that I talk with folks about regularly is kids coming out of school today, they're exposed to this, right? So they're not going to want to work in an environment that requires them to do everything the old school way, right? They've learned to use these tools. They know that the power that they hold to be more efficient, to have better work-life balance. I mean, all of the things. So, even companies who have really good reputations right now for being great places to work and easily attracting and retaining talent, if they aren't forward looking, then they're going to have a harder time getting great students, such as from the Mesa school, are coming out with these AI school skills. So would you talk to us a little bit, for the business owners and leaders listening, why and how they can better modernize and be forward looking when it comes to creating an environment that these students with supercharged skill sets are going to be looking for in the marketplace?
Yeah. So right now, if you think about the youth in the news before joining the university, I kept hearing from different folks saying, oh man, this next generation, Gen Z, is just so lazy, right? That's been all bunch of crap, for lack of a better word. What I've seen these kids do over the last couple of months at Texas A&M has been amazing, right? These folks are creating things, creating tools that are superior to anything I was ever able to create back in the day, and they're doing it fast. They're excited about innovation and making an impact in different parts of the business world, or really things that the world in general needs. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had a hackathon, and this hackathon was a 24-hour hackathon. These kids, so you could be in a group of 1 to 4 people. They all came in. There's about 500 people total that showed up, and what they were able to do in 24 hours, right, was insane. I mean, some folks created, AI with VR built into it. Others were creating agentic AI, talking to different apps, making pretty much automating their life. Other folks were creating ways to combat forest fires, right, of everything we've seen in California and other places, and so on and so forth. And they were able to do all this in 24 hours, right? So imagine the impact that some of these kids, and keep in mind, I'm talking freshmen and above, right? Some of these guys are freshmen. They still need more training to graduate. But the impact that these kids could do once they go into your companies, right, is going to be insane if they're given the opportunity to make that impact. Now, what can businesses do to kind of create the right environment? I would start off with, again, data, right? What systems do you have in place to have the right data structure to start off with, and the right data mindset? Because everything you do should be datafied. I mean, everything. And a lot of folks, when you talk data, people will say, oh, that's Excel files in my database. That's the only data I have. Well, that's not true. Anything and everything that you have in your business is some type of data, and you need to learn how to harness it, how to, properly store it, transform it, and make it useful for your users out there, and not just your silos. And I understand that, okay, financial data, you only want certain people to see it. Of course, it has to be secure. Security is one of the top things you got to focus on. But you got to be able to allow others to make decisions based on data, right? Like taking finance aside, what production data, for example, in a manufacturing plant? Why hide that data from folks? Let them see the insights, compare themselves to other production lines or other sites, and be able to see, tie that information to the personnel information and figure out, okay, why is this shift weaker than another shift? What's making that change? Is it because the machines are not running properly at night? Or is it because the personnel are not getting the right resources to be able to do their job at certain shifts? Or maybe it's even, if you look at the data coming from the bill of materials itself, right? The components, the material that they're using for creating whatever product they're creating, sometimes the data will tell you that, hey, we have one of our suppliers giving us bad product, right? And again, data will tell you all this if you let it talk to you. And you just got to figure out how to set up that structure to allow to be able to speak to your data. And right now, there's so many tools out there. My favorite, personally, is Databricks. I'm a big Databricks guy, and Databricks has done an amazing job with, kind of democratizing data, right, for folks, allowing you to tap in other sources. If you want to, for example, use Power BI for your analytics, to be able to, chart things out, you can do that. You can just Tableau, etc. But it just makes it super easy, right? I mean, it makes data simplified. And I'm a big supporter of what they're doing. And they have some big announcements coming up this summer, which I'm excited to hear them go public on. And yeah, so that's my answer. Hopefully it's good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, just curious, you touched on agentic AI from your perspective, because there's a lot of talk right now. I think in most of the keynotes last year, it was mentioned that this year is going to be the agentic AI wave, and you hear a lot of people talking about it. From your perspective, what is agentic AI? Because I do see some, and this is the context behind it, I see some people calling, pure automation, for example, through Power Automate or any other type of workflow process being pitched as agentic. Uh, and that's, in my eyes, is traditional automation that a lot of people have been doing for a while. So how do you differentiate and go over your thoughts on that?
If you think about agentic AI, it's not agents, right? It's not automation. Yes, those parts of it, yes, it is, but it's not Power Automate. It's not all these other tools that we've been using for a good while. These are going to be able to do a lot more than just pure automation, right? You're talking about being an autonomous system, persistent, interactive, but it has goals, it's specific goals that it's trying to achieve. I mean, you're still programming it. If you think about from a Power Automate perspective, you're still having to configure, right? You're configuring, hey, if this happens, make it do this, et cetera, et cetera. But what that world doesn't have is the autonomy. And the autonomy itself is where the agentic side comes in, right? It can plan and adapt as things change on its own, and it acts independent without the need of any other moving part, right? So that's what makes it a little different. And again, it's able to communicate with you. It's able to kind of help you uh, do more work, right? If you think about where can agentic AI come in, it could, the easiest one that everybody gives an example on, for example, is going to be your call centers, right? That's an easy one. Those call centers are unfortunately going to be a thing of the past. If you think about it, it's already been happening where now folks or companies, I should say, are going to be focused on creating all these agents to handle those things. And now these agents are answering calls, they're tapping into other systems, making changes as needed, right? And whatever it is that the agent's doing, let's say it's for a travel company, was able to book things for you, right? Make changes to your reservations and such, but also tap into other systems. It's not just one system. It can do things simultaneously and be able to do and able to bring that information to you, to present it to you like a human would, but in a much faster and efficient way. That's how I see it being a little different than the stuff that we're used to. But it's still, again, is the autonomy behind it and the interactivity that's happening between those different systems, those different agents. And now we're talking multi-agents, right? Of how they're going to be able to interact with each other in a simple way.
Awesome. No, that was great.
And I think the model context protocol, or MCP, that's taken the world by storm in the last 2 or 3 weeks, that's been adopted. Basically, it's become the USB-C of the agentic AI space. Is going to accelerate this now that there's a common way. Just think of the MCP as a common API standard for all agents. And so, regardless of whether you're using Perplexity or Claude or OpenAI or Microsoft Copilot, you're doing things in the same sort of way. And so it's going to escalate this much, much quicker. I do agree. What we have now is basically like automation on steroids. So you have Power Automate or use NAN, and it's watching a webhook for that trigger. And once that trigger happens, it goes down and does some things. There's some things with the LLMs that'll do some basic decision making. And if the tone is this, switch it to that kind of stuff. But the real magic, is coming down the road, and it is going to be that autonomy Arnold's talking about. And that just takes the taking the time to train those models to work in a manner and the guardrails that are important to you and your organization.
Yeah, and it's not to say that, Power Automate's not in the process. Those will definitely still be in the agentic process. It's just something that the agents are going to be calling throughout the process, right? So I want to make that pretty clear. It's just I see a lot of stuff, if you go to LinkedIn or Twitter or, really any marketing materials, it's like, hey, this new agentic AI, and, you really dig into it, and it's like, oh, this is just Power Automate or N8N, like Brad said. So I'm really excited about the MCP protocol. I think that's going to open up a lot of doors. I first read about that like a month ago, so I'm really excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah, for me, the least technical of this group, I look at it sort of like a universal remote, right? Which is great because it just makes things a lot easier and smoother. It's not a magic wand, as nothing is, as we always mention, but it cuts down on custom coding for every AI app. So it's faster, cheaper to add what I'm calling smarts to tools. So additional intelligence or information, real time or whatever. And it's aimed at not only developers, but also businesses and industries and education. So again, it's not a magic button, but it's certainly moving the needle forward to make this even more accessible and continue to leverage technology as the great equalizer, as we say.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess that my next thing I want to kind of discuss, Arnold, is, to be honest, with your hiring from Texas A&M was quite shocking. Not so much shocking that it was you, because I think you're right for the job, but that like you have a university, and just so folks know, Texas A&M in the state of Texas, it's in College Station. It's not in Austin or Houston or Dallas, and so like it's looked down upon as like this. It's an agricultural college, it's an engineering college, but to be honest, like, they're leading at the forefront. Once you were hired on, I went down the rabbit hole, and just like the $250 million Space Institute they're building out at NASA JSC, adding AI to the curriculum, while universities like Columbia are scared of it. They literally kicked out a kid from the university for building an AI tool set for elite code, getting around jobs and things. Instead of embracing that technology, they're scared of it. And just if you add up the endowments of all the Division I schools, which is over, I think it's 364 schools in the US, it's nearly $1 trillion, the endowments that they have. So it's not that our Division I schools are hurting for funding. University of Texas, I'm calling you out right now. You have nearly $50 billion in your endowment, and you're falling behind in technology. Arnold, what has set Texas A&M apart, and like, why is it so important that other institutions follow their lead and start embracing these AI technologies instead of being scared of it?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I mean, I'm an Aggie, a two-time Aggie. I have two masters from A&M. I have my executive MBA, and then I also have my MS Analytics masters, right? At the same time, what you said about UT or University of Texas, it's true and it's not. They are doing quite a bit in AI, all right? It's just not very well formed, in my personal opinion. I haven't seen much, and I am talking to some of the faculty there, and I'm excited to see some of the things that they're doing, but they are working on it. What they have that we don't, that I'm working on my end, is the startup community. They have the luxury of being in the middle of Austin, right?
Yeah.
Surrounded by pretty much the new Silicon Valley over there, and they have easy access to all these startups. We don't have that luxury. What we have is a lot of land. We can keep expanding, right? They can't. They can only go up, meaning a building goes up and keeps going higher because they don't have the land. I mean, it's just surrounded by downtown. So because of that land, we have the luxury of being able to create new buildings, bring in new stuff, such as the Rallis campus for us. We're going to be bringing in nuclear companies, right? Nuclear reactors to kind of help us power some of these big initiatives for us. We're going to be able to, for example, we have a new beautiful building for the Mesa Business School, which is the Wayne Roberts building. And it's a state-of-the-art building. I hope you guys can visit someday, and I'll take you there because it's such a beautiful building and some amazing technology there. But we're able to do those things simply because we have this space. Now, yes, I agree that we're typically overlooked when it comes to technology and other aspects of, what other universities are used to being known for. And we're working on that. Dean Sharp has made what's the right word? Big initiatives, that some of the ones I've mentioned, to elevate Mesa Business School and A&M in general to the next level, right? Right now, I mentioned a lot of stuff already, but one of those things that we're working on as well is bringing those startups to be in College Station. Now, one thing that got announced today that I'm not sure you guys know about is Creative Destruction Lab, right? CDL. What CDL is, it was created in, I believe, Canada, in Toronto, the University of Toronto. And it's a nonprofit org, right, that delivers pretty much, objectives-based program. I'm reading their stuff, for massively scalable seed stage science and technology-based companies. It's a 9-month program allowing founders to learn from experienced entrepreneurs, which is by definition increases their likelihood to be successful. The reason this is important is we just announced CDL Texas, right? And what that means is we are the 4th university in the United States to become part of this. The first in Texas, and we're going to be I believe we have we're going to be the only one in Texas that all the other universities can come and collaborate with us. But this is massive because our focus is going to be in energy, right? And space. Those are the two things that our version of CDL Texas is going to focus on, which again, if you think about what you talked about earlier of the space initiative that we have with NASA right now going on in Houston, and then you look at what I mentioned earlier of the energy side of things, right, of having these nuclear reactors potentially coming to College Station. It's beautiful harmony there. Not only that, but we want to use this, CDL is going to be kind of like the foundation to bring all these startups to create new technologies there and be able to, we're going to help fund them. We're going to help elevate them and push them because we have a lot of good research and knowledge. One of the largest research facilities, public school wise in the nation. And we're an R1 facility. And most people don't realize that of how much innovation is happening at this university. I personally didn't even know it. Right, because I've been always stuck in just the business side of things. I never really went into the whole research side, and it's impressive. So when you add all that knowledge, all these things happening behind the scenes, and bring in all these startups to come and become part of this university, it's going to be magic. And I'm so excited for that to be happening. There's other initiatives that I'm working on to kind of create the accelerators and incubators that are going to help us even take it further, with obviously my side being a focus on AI, right? But all of these, let it be energy or space, there is an AI component to it, right? As we know, everything has an AI component. And I'm here to help, these future leaders bring their companies here, start them here, and let's get them to, go to the moon. No pun intended there. So it's going to be, again, exciting times at Aggieland and a lot of changes coming. But again, I'm so pumped for it.
Yeah, and I'd highly recommend that folks start following Texas A&M and the various schools like Mesa School of Business and the Texas A&M Institute of Data Science, Texas A&M Innovation on LinkedIn. These will all be in our show notes and our newsletter. I went to College Station, I guess about 3 weeks ago now. It's from a Texas A&M Institute of Data Science. It was just an open call. They provided lunch and they brought in 12 PhDs from all over the world, and not just Texas A&M. I think we had Rice and U of H and University of Illinois, and they were talking about just data science and AI, and I think it was geography based, so geomap based. I mean, it was just, again, it was free. I went on campus and I was there for a day. Listen, all these people were much, much smarter than me. And so if you're in Southeast Texas, look those things up. Also, I want to mention the Ag Tech Rodeo. So, Texas A&M is an agricultural school, but they had an Ag Tech Rodeo through the Texas A&M Innovation that I went to right about the time as the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo started. And it was all technology based around the agricultural space. And there's just a lot of really great AI based tool sets already being utilized across the world. And agriculture is a perfect use case. Robert and I have dove into some agriculture uses for vision learning, watching crops, watching herds, those types of things. But there's people doing even greater things like with reproductive, revolutionizing how you reproduce, cattle, for an example. And so don't sleep on the agricultural space, because they're always working really lean and they all work really hard. You don't see a lazy farmer, so there's a lot of great things from that perspective. Like Arnold said, they do have that land. And they are, like Texas A&M Innovation as an example, we'll work with startups and give them 10 acres of land to work on their agricultural startup for free, and they will foster that and have PhDs and work with them, and it's just a really, really beautiful thing. Other organizations and other schools are doing that kind of stuff as well, but just don't sleep on College Station. It's not the College Station of 20 or 30 years ago, that's for sure.
In my mind, Brad, while it's super exciting that A&M is adding a big emphasis on AI in business, obviously the focus on energy and space makes a tremendous amount of sense being in Texas. But I love the fact that they're still very true to self with the ag tech side of things. So thank you for covering that. I think that's important to mention.
Yeah, the big thing too, right, is sometimes it just takes a couple of these schools to start doing it. Then, it's just a domino effect, right, to get more public to talk about it more. I think the future, in my opinion, is really, really bright for, these public institutions. I mean, I'm sure you've read Arnold and, Brad and Carrie, the articles the last year and a half. A lot of the brightest minds are starting to attend those universities and not go to these Ivy Leagues as much as they were in the past. And that's really interesting. And I think selfishly great for the state of Texas, where we're all located. And I see a really bright future for these institutions for sure.
Arnold, I have a question for you regarding other educators and how I'm sure there's a lot of them listening that are wondering how could they possibly get something like this at their university, or what small steps can they as an individual take to hone their skills or bring awareness. We're often speaking to more of a business owner crowd, but we really want this podcast to be useful for anyone, for individuals, and obviously the education space is super important. So what advice would you give other educational leaders who are looking to, enhance their own AI capabilities and help bring that to their students in their university?
Sure. I would say don't be afraid of AI, right? That's step number one. Educate your faculty and staff on what AI truly is, as well as your IT team. Your IT team becomes crucial to get their buy-in simply because they're the protectors, right, of your data, of the university, if you think about it. So you got to have that buy-in from them. And then I'll be more than happy if you guys want to reach out to me to make some introductions to Perplexity, OpenAI, and others, because a lot of these companies are more than happy to team up with your university. You just got to reach out, right? And they are looking for, integration within your campus to let students try it for free, for example, and give some feedback. Others are looking for use cases that maybe we haven't thought of from an A&M perspective, but you have some amazing use case that they want to kind of think about integrating and updating their products on, right? So again, it's don't be shy, reach out to them and do your research, right? One of the things that I am always been very good at, and as well as Brad is the same way as me, is kind of, we love to be early adopters. We love to see what's out there, right? We love to kind of be in the know of things. And sometimes, yes, we make mistakes and we purchase what we believe is the next big thing, and it's not, right? I mean, I have a graveyard of those items, but that's okay. I mean, the idea behind this is you're not wasting thousands of dollars in this case. You're subscribing for, $12 a month or $20 a month to try this tool for a month or two, and then checking it out to see how does this apply to me, my class, my school, etc., right? Because that's what I did in the business world is I would grab these tools, try them out, figure out, okay, how is this tool going to help me do my job better? Or how is this job going to help my clients be better? And in some cases, yes, I found great uses for it. And I wanted to just innovate using that. In other cases, it's like, okay, this doesn't fit for me, right? This is not a good fit. Not that it's a bad product by any means. It's just for what I was doing, it just wasn't great. The other thing I would recommend is getting involved in the local community, within the AI world, right? Right now, for example, Brad and I were lucky enough to attend the Houston AI Club first inaugural session earlier last month, and they have their next one coming up on Thursday. And we're excited to go there. It's again like-minded individuals trying to learn more about AI. They're bringing other speakers to talk about AI there, and you're going to hear them talk about things that you probably never done in AI and don't have any experience in it, and that's fine. I don't claim to know everything AI by any means because it's such a broad term, right? It has so many different things. And a lot of people call some things AI that they're not necessarily AI a lot of times, right? And so, again, just talking to these folks, learning more, diving in and figuring out, okay, well, what worked for you, what didn't, getting some insights will help you kind of see a broader picture of, okay, how does it fit in my world? And what do I need to do to get the buy-in from, let it be your dean or your department, or more importantly, IT, right? Because IT needs to be a partner with you on this for it to work in a good way.
What would you say to folks, whether it be in business, in education, or in their personal life, that don't feel there's a tangible ROI of automation or the path to AI? I'd be curious to hear it from you.
I would say they're being very close-minded, to be honest. Automation alone, right? When you talk about some of the things that people have been doing for years in their jobs, let it be that you're an executive or you're a receptionist and everything in between, right? There are tasks that are just those mundane tasks that everybody hates doing, right? But you have to do them because it's part of your role. You can automate a lot of that, right? You can use something as simple as Power Automate to do a lot of the automation, or you create some agents to do some agentic AI to do a lot of it for you. But that alone will buy you time to focus on the more important things, right? The ROI is massive if you think about it from that perspective, because it's going to be done in a timely manner because you're scheduling this. It's going to be done as the data comes in and it's able to do its job, however you configured it. But you're able now to put more focus, more of your attention in those more important things to make better business decisions. So don't be afraid to do that, right? And again, it's can technology make mistakes? In this case, the mistakes that it will make is based on your mistakes, right? Because you are training it, you are configuring it. And you got to get, good companies out there, good partners with you. If you don't have anybody in-house that can do this, to kind of partner up with you and do this, such as, you guys, Digital Meld, that you guys do that beautifully, to kind of, take on that role for them and kind of educate them on, we help you set it up, hold your hand during the whole process, and this is how you configure it. And now we're handing it off to you. You take over from here. And once they learn how easy it is and the power behind it, I have no doubt that they're going to want to replicate that and many other things. Right? But again, the ROI is massive on this. They need to be getting on it.
Thank you, Arnold. I appreciate that.
We've talked frequently about how you can't really ignore AI. It's coming whether you want to or not. And especially in the business space, but even across the education space and in students, right? The students are limited by the number of hours in the day, no different than a CIO or VP or, a receptionist are limited by the number of hours in the day. Our time is our most valuable resource. I'm just curious to get your take. Let's say that a company waits 2 years to start this journey. How far behind do you think over those 2 years are going to be compared to people in their space who do just like, they're not going all in and dumping millions of dollars, but they're just doing that slow iterative process, much like Texas A&M is doing right now, right? The goal is to get the ball rolling, have these competitions, get Perplexity and these other tool sets, build out these curriculums. It's going to take a couple of years to get that up and running, but you're going to be so much farther ahead. From a business perspective, can you just give some insights with your vast knowledge and the large organizations you've worked as a consultant in the past?
Yeah, I mean, those that lag behind are going to start lagging behind the competition, right? Because your competitors are already doing, you got to assume that they're already doing something in AI. And if you think about the competitive stack of where you stack, let's imagine that there's 10 businesses that are doing the same thing that you do. And you are, let's imagine, in number three, right? You're trying to get to number four, but you say, you know what, we're far up. We don't need to innovate. We're okay. There's a lot of people behind us. Well, those folks are not sitting still, right? They're doing something. They're innovating something. And the minute that those folks figure out how to harness the power of AI, they're gonna jump across you and leave you in the dust, right? You're gonna move behind quickly. And you're correct that adoption takes time because there's gonna be some training time that is required for your team, bringing in that, those skills within your ecosystem, learning to, which one works for me, which one don't. I need to clean up my data, put in new processes to capture some data that maybe you're lacking to be able to do some of the things you want to do with AI. And again, the more you lag, the more you're going to fall behind in that competitive stack and you're going to end up in the back, potentially going out of business and being left behind because it's hard to catch up. This world is moving fast in terms of AI. And those that start playing with it early, learning how they can use it within their organization are going to be in a much better place trying to, climb that competitive stack rather than kind of being stagnant and just falling behind and dropping off, potentially ceasing to exist. At the same time, as we know, there's a big shift in the human element in AI, right? There's a lot of companies out there that, and this is the scary part of AI, right? There's a lot of fear that, hey, there's going to be a lot of displacement, right? What's going to happen to some of these companies with the displacement? I don't think that there's going to be people being laid off. I mean, obviously that's going to happen due to AI. Unfortunately, some things are going to be phased out. But I think the majority of the displacement is going to happen from, AI being integrated in certain roles where now these folks are more powerful. They're able to do a lot more, right? More efficient. They're increased capacity across whatever roles. Where now if somebody leaves that organization, we're used to, hey, Bob left. We're going to hire somebody new to replace Bob, right? Well, that becomes no longer the case, right? People don't want to hire anybody else because they're like, okay, we got plenty of capacity. We can knock this out. We could do everything we're doing here with 30% of the workforce simply because AI is helping us. And what that translates to is you're going to see less hiring. right? You're going to see a lot less, especially from universities, entry-level things. And that's a little scary from that perspective. You're going to start seeing a lot of the older folks that are scared to adopt new technologies, right? They're going to be the ones getting left behind because people are going to want to hire AI ready folks. And if you're not adopting that technology to stay kind of, with the workforce, then I'm sorry, there's no place for you. It's kind of like trying to hire somebody that doesn't know how to type, right? It's hard to find a position for them unless you're going to be a busybody in a manufacturing line or something. But if you're trying to get a job nowadays, you at the bare minimum, you got to know how to use a computer because almost every job is a computer in front of them, right? And again, we're entering that era where AI is the new computer, AI is the new calculator, AI is that new tool that changes the workplace, and you have to learn how to use it if you want to stay relevant.
That's an honest truth that we like to share all the time and just not sugarcoat anything. But I do want to share a very quick quip of, I was having a conversation with a business owner the other day talking about how we could start down this path. And it was so heartwarming to hear him and see the joy on his face when he said this. I have an accounting admin person that's just kind of a, entry level. And instead of firing that person, I'm now going to be able to elevate them to a contract specialist because that work is being automated. So it elevates the business and it elevated the role for that person. So I just want to share the flip side of that coin really quickly.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear that. But yeah, I mean, some roles will be eliminated, which means that some people will have to shift positions, right? New roles will be created. And we've seen that with all new technologies that come out. New roles are created. For example, we used to have a lot of, when all these servers were on-prem, there was a lot of server admins, right? And now that we moved to the cloud, we need a lot less of those guys, right? But there's new cloud architects and all these new cloud kind of positions that appeared and got created. And so it's just a shift, right? But those people had to be trained in that world and become the new masters of that world. And that's, again, we're going to be seeing a lot of that. But people have to be open to change, open to adopting new technologies and not being so close-minded that, to be so resistant, so much resistance to this change or world really of AI. Don't be scared of it. Embrace it.
Yeah, it's funny. We spend a lot of time talking to small to medium businesses and what I'd consider small enterprises, and what I tell them is this is actually your advantage because you can be more nimble than these big guys that are in front of you, where most of those companies have, in my experience, people wearing 10 or 15 hats that AI is going to allow them to, like you said before, Arnold, take that mundane task, which is one of those hats they're wearing right now, and either automate that. And again, I think everybody gets lost in the semantics here. It doesn't have to do everything. Even if it can just help you save small steps, if it can help you save a little bit of time, it will exponentially grow over time. That's I think people need to hear and understand is if you just start, that's why we named this podcast what we named it, because seriously, you just start with something small and then maybe it gets to something way bigger, right? So that's some really good insights, Arnold. Real curious because you're talking. I'm imagining you're talking with a lot of business leaders, a lot of decision makers. I've seen and read a lot of articles, and I'm curious to hear your thought process on this. I've seen and read a lot of articles about, there seems to be a gap between the executive level leadership and actual boots on the ground, people implementing AI, whether it's, or employees embracing it, right? Like leadership, executive type roles seem to really want to embrace this. And then when you get to talking to, the boots on the ground workers, there is some skepticism. They don't really want to implement it, or it's just question after question. Are you seeing that or hearing that, or what are you seeing, from those type of roles?
It's a great question. I mean, I think I've seen both hands, right? Where the boots on the ground, the folks, in the middle of it are trying to bring new technology to help them get better. But leadership doesn't see it that way. They see it as an extra expense, an extra cost, right? And they're like, no, we don't want to spend that, thank you. Then there's the other way where leadership sees the value of it and they're like, hey, we want to do that. Let's bring it in. The boots on the ground, there's resistance behind that change because now it's a culture change. And culture changes, they're very, very difficult things for most people, right? Because you're so used, especially for folks that have been with these companies, 10, 20, 30 years, they're so used to doing that task, and maybe they really love it, but it's their world, it's been their world, their career. And then you come in and say, we're going to change things for you. Yes, we're going to make your life better, I promise, but you're going to have to learn this new way of doing things. That, has its own mental models, and now you got to break and recreate some, again, this new processes of how to do it. How do I use this technology to do my old job? And again, people get ticked off, right? They're like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm done with this. So again, you will see both ends. I've experienced both ends. And then you have the third way of the gatekeepers, right? Where you have, unfortunately, in some organizations, it's IT. Most of them, it's going to be IT because they did not partner with them, right? That IT says, I understand the CEO wants it. I understand that the operators want it, but no, it's not going to happen, right? And it's like, why? What is the reasoning behind it? Like, oh, data security. It's like, okay, well, let's work through it. Let's see what you believe is not secure about it. Let's secure it and try it out, right? Let's trial it for just small nugget and see how it works, and then expand on it. But most of the time, they'll be resistant to doing it. Personally, what I believe it is from that perspective, from the IT side, is that a lot of organizations or IT organizations don't have that expertise within their ecosystem, right? So to hire folks requires money, requires obviously, hopefully, being in an area that has these types of folks. If we're in San Francisco or even Houston, Austin, it's very easy for us to find people like us, right? But if you're in the middle of the boonies somewhere in a manufacturing plant and you're hoping to find an AI expert, you're going to have a problem. Of course, you can post it online, LinkedIn, find somebody, but do they want to move to where you are? It's going to be a little tough. And nowadays, with more and more of these remote positions disappearing, it makes it even harder for people to hire. So, so anyway, so those are the three ways that I've experienced, and I mean, all three have their own challenges, and I understand the mentality behind each of those. But it's finding ways to kind of get through those and kind of get buy-ins from each of those areas that is key. And honestly, I was never perfect in that. We still had a lot of instances where it was opportunity lost for us simply because of that resistance from any of those three angles, even though, we show them what the potential outcome could be of how it could make their trajectory be tenfold, hundredfold in some cases. They could be up there in the sky if they allowed some of these tools. But the ones that did, I mean, they gave us a lot of kudos for that, and thanked us simply because they were able to look past those fears and kind of figure out, okay, how is this going to work? But anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
No, that was a really good answer. I was chuckling a little bit through it just because I've been, managing IT groups, and I've definitely been on the side of gatekeeping. And it's taken me a while in my career to realize it's not a us versus them mentality, and I feel like a lot of IT groups definitely have that mindset. So that's really, really good insight. And I know my network specifically, if anybody on the IT side is listening to this, you could use AI to really help streamline your business. So embrace it. you know it's the stuff you can do right now doesn't necessarily cost more dollars, and anybody working in IT right now knows that every dollar spent is typically scrutinized. Like Arnold said, finding headcount is not it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to prove why you need somebody to help you do this. So just keep an open mind, and that's just really good insight, so thanks for that.
One quick item that I want to add to that is, as businesses are evaluating these new AI tools, every tool, right? You talk to SAP, they'll be like, oh, we got AI. You talk to Microsoft, they'll be like, oh, hey, we got AI. Everybody has something to do with AI, where in most cases is not really AI, right? And what I would highly suggest is do your due diligence. If you can partner up with somebody that knows AI that can help guide you and figure out what the use case it is, what problem are you trying to solve with AI? Because you don't want to just adopt AI just to adopt AI. You want to have a problem to solve with it, right? And are you trying to, increase production in your manufacturing plant? Are you trying to, automate some tasks simply because you need folks to be need less of those folks in your organization or something like that, right? So all of a sudden you can add AI to kind of supplement that. But if you're just adding AI thinking that, hey, that's going to be my all-in-one solution from whatever company, chances are you're going to fail, right? Because that's not how you do it whatsoever. You want to start off with a problem, figure out how to leverage AI, which AI fits that bill, and tackle it. So yeah, just be careful.
Yeah, I think you all y'all have brought great points. I think the ways of having IT own all technology, that's going the way of the dodo as well, right? We're now in generations of workers who grew up with technology. Whenever Arnold and I started our career, we were basically the first folks that were introduced to technology before they got to college, right? We were on AOL. We wouldn't say that was very technological, but we had Google. But no, that was before Google. Let's say that we had Yahoo or Alta Vista or like, let's go get it.
Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves. I forgot about Ask Jeeves. But so you're going to have these college students, the best and brightest, are going to graduate and utilize these tool sets all through their adolescence, all through their education and higher education, and they're going to want those same access to those same tools to do their day-to-day jobs. And if you remove those tools from them, you're going to have them, working with one hand tied behind their back. And we say this all the time. It's going to be more important for integrators in the future than it is technologists. And integrators are people that just understand a little bit of the business and understand a little bit of the technology. And I'll say this right now, if you're someone who knows a lot about a specific tool set for any industry, if you know about that tool set, you know that really well, learn a little bit about integrations and you're going to be indispensable. If you know how to get the data from that system to a centralized place, Arnold mentioned the importance of data engineers and data engineering. If you learn about, be those integrators are going to be the key to the future. So if you're worried about your job, going in the way of the dodo, start integrating AI with your job today as best you can with the constraints you have from your IT teams or those people putting up roadblocks or those sorts of things, and just learn as much as you can so you can expand your knowledge set just a little bit so you can become one of those integrators. Because we need integrators. We can't hire them fast enough, because to understand how the business works a little bit and how the technology works good is a special sauce. And most corporate IT folks don't. They just live in their own little bubble and they have their own little silos. And that's all set up because of regulations and keeping data siloed. And it's all for security and great things, but it also means that they're operating with blinders as well.
One thing I would add to that, Brad, is, kind of like data science. Once data science became a hot item, right? Everybody wanted to be a data scientist. And data science is amazing. I'm a data scientist myself. I even have, masters on it. The problem that companies had is they were hiring all these data scientists that they did not know their business, right? So yes, they could do data science, but that's meaningless if you don't understand the business. So the best people that could tackle the problems they were having would have been some of the workers that they already had there that got that training, right, to become those data scientists. And I think we are at that spot with AI right now where, yes, AI engineers, they're amazing. They can hold your hand and guide you. But training your people, training your existing workforce on AI is the key, right? And again, the integrators, the data engineers, the AI engineers, etc., they can be great people to guide you and hold your hand and walk with you through that process as you set up these things. But you got to train your folks. Let it be, we will be more than happy to do it through Texas A&M Mesa Business School. We're not the only ones. There's many other great programs out there that are near you if you want to be in person or if you can do remote. And contact them, figure out, okay, what does your program look like? Make sure that it's a legit program. Do your due diligence again, because a lot of these courses are being now outsourced to some other country. You want it to be, within the university space that you're looking at. But these people, your workforce, if they get trained on it, they're going to be able to do a lot more than hiring an AI engineer and saying, hey, run with it. Because it takes a while to learn your business. I don't care what you do. It takes a while to really learn the little ins and outs of that business and how it all works, what kind of products you make, all the little kinks that you have behind that business, right? And again, that's experience making me say this, right? Because you want to make sure that you get your bang for your buck in this case.
Yeah, we say it all the time. The people that understand the business have a huge advantage here. If they can embrace it and learn this stuff, I mean, they're going to be able to do a lot. The AI integrators are going to have tough times typically. Even myself, right? I work for a frac sand company, and that whole industry is very niche. And by the time I left, 2.5 years in, that's when I finally started understanding how the whole thing works, so that's just one example there. I want to ask one more question, which is somewhat of a selfish question, as a parent. And Arnold, I know you have young kids. What are you doing and what would you advise parents or just anybody for even the younger generation? Let's not even talk college students. Let's talk, adolescents, toddlers. This is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to be a big part of their life. And so how are you approaching that maybe as a parent, and what would you advise, parents and others?
Yeah, it's a great question. As a parent, I have two 7-year-olds, twins, boy, girl, Archer and Esther. They both have embraced AI. Starting off with, a version of AI, which was Siri, not the best, but that's a form of AI. And lately, with ChatGPT, my son especially, right? Every time he goes to bed, he has two things that he loves to do. One is listen to his little podcast, which is about space and natural disasters, really science as a whole. But he loves to talk to ChatGPT, ask it questions, and I allow it, right? Simply because that's his nightly ritual before he goes to bed. He's talking to it, asking it questions, learning about space, or again, natural disaster, earthquakes, volcanoes, all the terrible things that could happen to us. But what's interesting about it, and keep in mind, he's been doing this for about a year or so, since he was 6, now being 7, almost 8. He has learned how to properly prompt, because those tools require you to be good at prompting, how to properly phrase your question, right? That's what Gen AI is all about, is that prompt engineering side. You got to be able to know how to properly do it. And he's learned how to do it as he's asked it questions and is trying to dig in deeper. And, the information that he's able to retain, sorry, as a young kid is insane, right? Because they're able to just, I mean, they're sponges at that age. And so he'll talk to me the next day saying, "Oh, Dad, do you know this and that about black holes or whatever planet or whatever thing happening on Earth science wise?" And most of the time, of course, I didn't know any of that. I was like, "Man, is that real?" And I Google it. It's legit. It's good. But when I look at the logs of his conversation, which is long sometimes, it's crazy of the information that he's able to get having a conversation. He's not typing this, right? He's having a legit voice conversation with the AI, asking all these different questions, getting answers, and he's able to retain it. It's like having a professor sitting right next to you, right, in bed. And that's like your nanny giving you, just dumping all that information on you, and you can ask him anything you want. So if you can think about this for our youth of how they're able to do all this, right, and be able to have so much information in front of them, what's going to happen to their skills? I mean, look at what happened to us. We were the early adopters of the mobile phone. Really, if you think about it, before these mobile phones came around, I could tell you everybody's phone number, everybody's address, right? I knew all that. Back in my head, it was kind of just locked in there. I knew it. But once those babies came out, you just didn't retain that information anymore because you were like, I already have it. Well, that's going to be tenfold now, if not more, because we have even more information now that these LLMs can pull out these Gen AIs, right? They're able to just split second give you detailed information of whatever it is you're looking for. So your soft skills become the most important thing that you need to train up. And that's going to become one of the most important things in college. Your critical thinking, problem solving, those things that are key for success for the younger generation. Because again, you're going to have the information at your fingertips. As folks are retiring and leaving with a lot of that information that you need for work, yes, AI is going to be able to help you with that job as you take over those roles. But you got to know, have some problem solving skills behind your belt, some critical thinking of how do you try to get that information out of this device to help you apply it for whatever task you're trying to do. And anyway, so that's going to become a very important part for our youth and really for us in general. And how do we improve on those soft skills, right? That's something that the universities are going to have to figure out and focus on to have kids come out of school prepared.
Absolutely. This has been so wonderful. I know we could continue to talk all day. Such great topics. Arnold, you're a wealth of knowledge. So easy to speak to. Thank you so much again for being here. Just want to say to our listeners, follow Start Small, Think Big, now streaming on all major podcast platforms. So that's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, and more. The full list and the links are going to be in the show notes. If you have a question, an idea, or a win you want to share, we'd love to feature those on a future episode. And if you think we're delivering useful content, feel free to let us know that too. Drop it in the comments or reach out to us. We're tailoring future episodes based on real challenges and insights and real conversations. Lastly, if you want to be a guest or you know someone who would be a great guest, please let us know. We're always looking to feature bold thinkers and builders.
Yeah, and again, I just want to thank Arnold for being our first guest. It's a great conversation to have, and we'll have Arnold back on many future episodes, I'm sure. And we're looking forward to taking part in some of those events at Texas A&M. We'll bring that on as well. Maybe, we have some hackathon winners or something, and if they're interested, we'd love to give them a platform too to see it from the student perspective. So we could again talk about this for literally all day. Arnold and I and Robert in the past have had conversations 6-8 hours at a time, just in sitting in a game server or something like that, chatting away. But we'll leave the conversation for another day. Arnold, thank you again for joining us. So I'm just going to give you the microphone and let you share anything that you think is important or that you would like to share for the next couple minutes.
Sure. Thank you. So again, thank you for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure being here. I do look forward to coming back. But to the listeners, if you guys want to chat and ask questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat to anybody. But look into our program. Look into Mesa Business School. We're doing some amazing things, and it's a lot of it is AI infused. We have a lot of big announcements coming in the near future, and I would love for everybody to see the great things that we're doing, that the students are doing, and the whole university as a whole is releasing and kind of prepping to release. So again, it's exciting times ahead. Don't be scared of AI, embrace it, and as always, do your due diligence. Thank you.
Wise words to live by. We thank you again, Arnold, for taking part in the conversation. And this is definitely going to be our longest podcast, and we'd love to keep talking, but I think we'll leave it there, and we'll have much more to talk about, especially with the changing landscape sooner than later. Next week, we're going to be talking about all things automation. So we've talked about the data, we've talked about the education aspect. Let's talk about automation. So that's our topic for next week. Until next week, we'll see you later. Bye.